What's up, guys, and welcome back. As promised, we're going to be talking about relationships, and I've been thinking, I had to. It took me a while to consider what this would actually look like because I'm sure that there's a ton of people out there that discuss relationships and various aspects of them, and so what makes me any different, right? I think though that the what I actually have to offer is just a little bit more unique because I'm weird, and that's something that a lot of people know about me is that I'm not normal, and so my perspective is just a little different, I think, and then also my experiences in life are also very different. Um, I was raised kind of different, and what I consider weird, um, and so I also, that mixed with just my own normal weirdness, I think kind of just gives me a different perspective on relationships. So I'm kind of just going to flip the narrative a bit and explain why, and what I have to think about it. And so I'm going to be doing a series. I'm going to split this up into parts. I don't really know how yet, but I guess I'll start with my backstory, um, because yeah. Anyways, we'll just get into it. So, and it kind of really starts off like most anybody else's. I was raised in a pretty good household from a young age. So I'm talking like age 6, 5, 6. Even before that, my parents were both involved in full time ministry, and um, they both really loved each other, and so I kind of didn't go or I didn't have any, needs necessarily. All my needs were met, and they showered me with the affection and love that I needed as a young man. And so with that sort of upbringing, that just allowed me to trust the world. And small psychological or psychology related fact that I'll probably talk about a little bit later with Courtney, but the studies show, and this is probably obvious to most people, but studies show that when you're raised up in a household that has both parents or just a loving single parent, and a lot of love from everybody else, when the household is stable, and the kid can grow and process normally, without any like trauma or anything like that. Their worldview and the way that they view the world they're going to be more trusting, and that was me. So if you ever seen those babies that they're at the park, or kids that are at the park and they just run away from their parents and they try to like explore, it's safe to say that kid probably is either not all there, or or they were raised in a very loving, stable home, and that was me. So things started to shift, and around the age of 8 is when I think things started to change. But I still had a lot of faith in friends and people. The way that I viewed people was very healthy, and I had all the best thoughts of them, and that translated into one of my, I think my second most memorable friendship was with a guy named BT, and I just remembered a story that I'm going to tell you guys, so don't judge me. But I knew this dude for, gosh, maybe 2 years, as an 8-year old, a year or two. But we did everything together. We went to school. He stayed over my place. I didn't sleep over his place because I was afraid of his family because he was rough. He was a rough dude. Like, he was really rough. Like, he was the bully of like the neighborhood. But he was my best friend, and so I never had to worry about that. Anyways, just to show you how I viewed relationships and how much they meant to me. I There was this one chance, and I don't remember what happened, but something went down, and I ended up telling on BT, and then, like, that's how I was raised, right? Like, I told on him for something that he did that was actually really bad, like really bad. I just don't remember what it was, but it was actually like enough for us to get in trouble. And so I told on him. That's just what you do. So, and my parents at the time, they talked to me about or the benefits of doing the right thing. That was kind of embedded in me. They didn't tell me about the consequences of doing the right thing. So, I told on him, and then we went back out. He found out about it. I was, and then I went back out and tried to hang out with him. He found out that I told on him, and called me two faced. What he said was, "You two faced it," and that was the kid's way of saying that. But anyways, um, I was crushed. One, because I didn't understand what two faced meant. I kind of had an idea, but I didn't know what he was saying. And so I'm like, "Whoa, what?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, we can't be friends anymore. You two faced it." And I was like, Like, so don't judge me, guys. I ran home. Uh, might have been crying. That's not important. And I talked to my mom, and I was like, "Mom, BT said that we can't be friends anymore." And she was like, "It's fine. You guys will be friends within the next couple days." And I was like, "You don't understand, Mom." Like, guys, I was destroyed. My world was crushed. My best friend said we can't be friends anymore, right? So I ran in the room crying and, locked myself in the room. We didn't have locks, so I just closed the door. But I was crying like hard because what am I supposed to do now? I can't play with my friend. Like, what do I do, right? And she saw above and past that. I didn't, and so I was crushed. And the next few people that I met, same thing. Like I had deep roots in friendship, and so when people didn't want to be friends with me or left, like that hit me hard. Um, so fast forward to high school. Um, it's a really big jump from age 8, but things just started getting progressively worse. My parents uh, weren't as weren't as devoted to each other, and the way that I was raised from that point on also took on a different shape because life started hitting us just a lot harder, and just life happens. The way that I viewed life started shifting too. I became way less trusting in people and way more dismissive. But instead of just allowing that to happen in the natural way, I started trying to put on a little bit, and I started broadcasting it. I don't trust people, and it wasn't as true as I made it seem. It was true, but it just wasn't. Like I exaggerated big time. And so it just made me, because I wanted to seem cool and brooding and mysterious, and I wasn't, and everybody knew that. But but I was fooling myself, and that's really all I needed at the time. And so I don't trust people, and I'll let you go real quick, and I don't need anybody, and all that stuff. And so, but that's kind of how my life started to go. I didn't trust friends because friends were always making fun of me, and I was bullied from honestly the age of like probably fifth grade until I graduated high school. And then after that, it took on a different shape through like gossip and mistruths about me and just all these different things. And so I never really got a reprieve from a relief. I don't know what reprieve means. I just say words sometimes, but whatever. I never really got a relief from, the just that sort of experience, from people. Um, but here's what happened though, because I gave my life to God at the age of 8, and I truly think that solidified my direction in life. So instead of me staying on that course, He did something really interesting, and He made my heart break for the very people that I told myself I hated. And so I started inquiring about, going into ministry, becoming like a youth pastor or something, to spearhead the movement or direction of the next upcoming generations, because I don't want kids to experience what I experienced, And of course, bullying is sadly, it's commonplace in today's society, but I wanted to, if not stop that trend, in the way that I can in affecting my community and my circle, I could at least come alongside of the people that are being bullied and give them the tools that I wish that I had, because my parents were pretty hands off when it came to, me complaining about bullying. And so I just wanted to be that role model and that influence in kids' lives. And so instead of staying angry, my heart started to break. God started to soften my heart towards these people, and through it, reconciliation has been achieved. And some people who were really nasty to me back in the day hit me up. Like, hey man, like I apologize. One happened as early as 2018. And that was really big for me, really really big. So what happened is I started to really need people again, and I was very honest about it. I'm like, hey, listen, guys, like I'm not as dismissive as I made it seem. Like I really need people, right? And so the basis of this is just that relationships are important. And I went through that whole 9-minute back story because I wanted to explain um, the today's message or talk, I guess, is going to be about um, the significance of the wrong type of relationships, because even bad relationships are important, And so I'm going to use stories from the Bible. I'm not going to read anything from it because, to be honest, I just thought about it and I don't know where it is, but I'm going to use examples from the Bible to explain my point. So, excuse me. If you are not a Christian, I do not apologize, but also I'm not trying to convert you. I'm just using a verse. You'll be all right. Anyways, so excuse me. I want to talk about like enemies essentially, and uh, the role that those people play in your life. Um, we're we're in a society. I'm trying to find out how to say this, but we're in a society today that is very, popcorn and instant, and we've kind of taken a different form where we're kind of dismissive now as in a whole, and we're quick to cut people off, and I understand it. There's the wisdom behind it too. Someone in your life is toxic and they're poison. You just get rid of them. You cut them off instantly. And there's some wisdom behind that. If you're not strong enough to endure what this person is doing, while remaining yourself, yeah, you got to get rid of them, because I need to worry about my own emotional and mental health, and that's smart. That's a wise move to make. But I think that short of that, I think sometimes we too quickly cut people off. Here's what I've seen. Friendships don't really mean, I think, what they used to mean back in the day. Um, where I'll give you an example. I had a best friend named Sam. Shoot, sorry, confidentiality. I had a best friend named Turner. Anyways, I had a friend named Sam, and best friends. Like, our relationship was kind of like me and BT's. But I met him at the age of probably 12 or 13, and we were friends for a couple years. And we're actually still friends. We don't really talk all that often, just because, we went different ways and live in different states. But, he was like a really good friend of mine. And I remember that we would argue a lot, and it started happening more and more. And I was always confident in myself to defend myself. But for some reason, like with BT, I was always kind of afraid. Or, sorry, with Sam, I was always kind of afraid, because the dude was rough too. Like, he was just like BT. Dude was just tough. Like, he wasn't afraid of anybody, and he would fight anybody, if he needed to, and he was just this tough dude. And, his dad kind of instilled that confidence in him. My dad didn't really do that with me, and so, I always respected Sam, because he just had that, like, that drive and that fearlessness that I wish I had, but, we stayed friends, for a while. But there was a period of time where we were just always arguing. And one time we almost got in a fight, and we didn't, thank God, because he probably would have won. um, and he would now too, because he's like 9 inches taller than me, because I stopped growing. Anyways, that's beside the point. So, but once we made up, and he was like, "Hey man, like, we need to figure something out, man." He was like, "We need to stop arguing, or if we do argue, we need to make sure that we can always remain friends after." And I was like, I looked at him with the strangest look. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because, that was a foreign concept. Like, we're two black dudes, and from my experience, like, we don't really talk about our feelings like that. Not that I didn't want to, it just never happened. And so it was so uncomfortable for me to deal with. But I agreed. I was like, "Yeah, man, like, we need to make sure that we can stay friends." And so we made a vow. He was like, "All right, let's promise, like, the next time we argue, if we do argue, we're gonna be friends after." And I was like, "Or why don't we just make a vow not to argue anymore?" He was like, "Brian, that's not, like, we can't do that. That's not gonna happen." I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" Like, and like, he was just dropping so much knowledge on me. I thought I was smarter than he was, honestly. But he always taught me something. That dude, I still love him. Sam, if you're listening, bro, I love you to death, man. Like, he was my first, like, for real best friend. Like, when I was, like, conscious of what friendship was, Sam was my best friend. And so, yeah, we made a vow that day to never let arguments come in between our friendship. And that's the first time that had been done. But I think that friendships today kind of take on a different form. And I don't know if it's gotten better or worse, honestly, because I've seen it both ways. But I work in a youth shelter right now, and so I encounter a lot of what they would call friendships. And that it looks bad, and it doesn't look solid. Um, Friends are people that you can go get drugs with, but when things get choppy, you're on your own. Um, and so I'm kind of, I became perplexed at the face of friendships, but then I also started to realize that, man, like, people are cutting people off left and right. Like, and I saw this post made. I'm like, people are. It said that it started talking about on Facebook how people are so quick to cut people off, but then they expect to go be in a 60-year marriage, and they're like, you can't do it. Communication starts with the small things, right? And so, what I started to notice is that the people aren't equipped to hold on to things that matter. You made me angry, so we're done talking forever. And I never really understood that.